Hey, welcome to Screenplay Junkie. My name's Drew Hellmich, and I'm a screenwriter. Film is a pretty sweet medium of art. However, before anything can make it to the big screen, it must start as a blueprint, text on paper. So if you're a fellow addict of film and storytelling, come join us as we take a look at various types of screenplays, short stories, and other source material that were crucial to the creation of the stories that we all love. I must warn you, though, there will be spoilers, so I do recommend being familiar with the title that's being discussed. Sound good? Cool. Then let's get started. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Go ahead, Bryan. Give me the lowdown.
Testing. Right, I'm going to give you my pitch of a zombie apocalypse newscast. Report. Everybody stay inside, stay indoors. If a zombie is able to get in your face, remove the brain by removing the head or the skull. Thank you.
That's it. Thank you. You just say thank you. Oh, that was funny.
Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much for that.
Red alert. There appear to be bodies getting reanimated.
Welcome back, fellow story addicts, to Screenplay Junkie episode 40. Drew, Matt, and Bryan here for the third installment of this Fright Fest miniseries.
Yeah, Fright Fest. Is this the last one? Is this the end?
I don't know. I'm feeling one more.
We're gonna do one more.
I'm feeling one more
in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
And I should have added that thunder soundbite previously, but whatever.
It's a work in progress.
Yeah.
I like it, though. It sounded good.
So what do we got today?
Yeah, sound like a Joker.
Night of the Living Dead, 1968. We're going back in time for this one. We got a movie that was actually filmed in black and white, even though 1968, most movies were in color by then.
Yes.
But this is the first of its kind. That's the type of movie it is.
Yeah. I know maybe with the year, some of you out there may have cringed or been like, oh boy, here comes a corny black and white movie. Well, if you haven't seen this movie, I would highly suggest it because, like Matt said, it's one of the most influential horror movies of all time. And
Correct.
It's the zombie movie, as we know of zombies now, that started this onslaught of zombie films.
It started my personal obsession with the undead corpse. So, real excited for this.
The undead corpse. And I mean, other things we should mention is like TV shows, comic books, video games. I mean, pretty much anything that you see that has zombies involved in it, they would not exist in their current state without this film. So do you guys just want to mention a couple of main titles that come to your head?
Call of Duty Nazi Zombies.
That's true.
Definitely inspired probably by one of these older Night of the Living Dead movies.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you see there's a ton of stuff. Shaun of the Dead, Zombieland, Walking Dead. You can go on and on and on about this stuff.
Scout's Guide to a Zombie Apocalypse.
Sure, yeah,
Never
that
saw
works.
that one, but-
That works as well.
There's a bajillion zombie movies nowadays. And what's funny, too, is there's a bunch of low-budget ones, like really bad, like sci-fi type movies.
Yeah.
And they're just comical to watch.
Well, what was that zombie tsunami movie? What was that called? Is that what it was called?
Yeah,
Zombie Tsunami?
Zombie Tsunami.
I think you nailed it, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I could be wrong, but
It's
I
from
don't know.
the makers of Sharknado.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. I wonder how well that one did. Are they going to make 5 of those? Because they've made 5 Sharknados.
Oh, boy. Well, I want to talk specifically about these Of the Dead movies who were conceived by George A. Romero. And I regret to inform everybody that he died on my birthday, so that makes me feel like a great person. About 2 years ago. But anyways, so Night of the Living Dead, that was the first one of his movies, and that came out in 1968. I believe there's 6 of them. And then there was Dawn of the Dead, came out in 1978. And then there was Day of the Dead, 1985. Land of the Dead, 2005. Diary of the Dead, 2007. And Survival of the Dead, 2009.
And now the George A. Romero is dead. 2019.
I think it was 17 when he passed away.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Little joke there, but I mean, he was not very creative with the naming of the titles. Just got to throw that out there. I mean, he was trying to, I guess, make it obvious that they were all made by him.
Yeah.
Or like maybe they all exist in the same universe or something.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
Very true.
You know, maybe mix up the title next time, a little bit. I don't know. By Survival of the Dead, like by then, I mean, come on, he's like running out of words. Of the Dead, like what other words can you put in front of the Dead?
Well, I mean, he was just going based on the time of day at first. Night, dawn, day. Could have. I mean, you could have
lunch of the dead, lunchtime, breakfast with the dead,
solar eclipse of the dead,
dusk of the dead. We could go on and on about this stuff.
So I guess he could have made 100 more movies. Absolutely.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about some IMDb info on this one?
Yeah, let's do it. We already mentioned that this movie came out in 1968. It came out in October of 19.
Oh, perfect.
Oh, wow. So a horror film that fits the time.
Yep, October 4th, 1968, okay? And I'll read the log line now. A ragtag group of Pennsylvanians barricade themselves in an old farmhouse to remain safe from a bloodthirsty, flesh-eating breed of monsters who are ravaging the East Coast of the United States.
I love it.
Little zombie effects at the end of that.
Yeah,
wow, okay.
board up your windows, stay indoors. Or actually, in this situation, you can just run right by the zombies because they're so slow. So if you're an athlete, just get out, put some cleats on.
Yeah, do a little juke move.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
So it was directed by George A. Romero and written by John A. Russo and George A. Romero. I don't know why. They both just needed to put out that their middle name starts with an A. John A. Russo, George A. Romero. Starring in the movie is Dwayne Jones, Judith O'Dea, Carl Hardman, and Marilyn Eastman. Okay, and most of those people also did multiple roles throughout the film, not just acting. But we'll talk about that.
Right.
The taglines for this one are, "They're coming to get you again." So if you've seen the movie, there's a line where it's, "I'm coming to get you, Barbara." And
yeah.
They play it out. Let's talk money. This one was made for around $114,000 back in 1968, okay? And worldwide, it's grossed over 200 times that amount. So this movie was very, very successful. And if you look at like inflation rates with dollar bills too, like at modern day, it would have made, I think, over like 100 and something million. So it was really, really successful for its time.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk trivia.
All right, trivia. I'll kick it off. We're going to share some trivia. There's quite a bit, so we're going to pass it off to each other. All right, so the film was shot over a period of 30 days, and like we said just moments ago, many of the actors and crew had multiple jobs on set, which you don't really see this a lot, especially, I mean, of course, in a major Hollywood movie because everyone has their specific, definite positions. Correct. But since this was a crew of people who pretty much had no experience making movies, they all had to come together and really figure everything out. So I just want to discuss really quickly kind of the backstory of how this thing got together. So, like I said, pretty much no one had experience making movies. However, George A. Romero got his start by directing and producing television commercials and industrial films for the Latent Image, which was a company he founded with a few of his friends. So they had that experience of doing that kind of stuff and all the resources in order to make a film. But after they were making commercials for however long they ended up doing that, they grew bored of it, and they had a hunger to film a horror movie. And it said they wanted to capitalize on the film industry's thirst for the bizarre, so he contacted Carl Hardman and Marilyn Eastman, who were president and vice president of a Pittsburgh-based industrial film firm, who also later played the roles of the Cooper family.
Pretty cool.
So if you've seen the movie, these are the two characters who were hiding in the basement. So they were already like owners and producers of these commercials. So they had experience doing that. And so Romero pitched these two people and the then untitled horror film, and they came on board because they loved it. So after that, Romero conceived his own production company, which he called Image 10, and that included 10 members. And at this point, they all threw in $600 for an initial budget of $6,000 until they were eventually able to raise the final budget of $114,000.
So they must have had a bunch of people come on board as investors because from $6,000 to $114,000, like that's a lot of money to collect.
It's a lot, totally. Yeah.
I just want to comment again on the various positions because, like we said, the two people, the president and the vice president of this film firm, they were also cast as actors. And the woman who is actually Mrs. Cooper, she actually did all of the special effects as well for the movie.
Wow.
Or at least she was the head of it, because she was like the only one who had experience doing this kind of stuff. Then there were other people who did like special effects. They were also cast as zombies. Pretty much everyone was putting in their helping hand. And I just want to mention one more thing. I guess when they all came together, they didn't know like what roles they were going to have. So it was like a democratic system of like voting people and like appointing people
delegating.
like, hey, you have the most experience to do this, so you're going to do this. And that's how they figured out how they were going to work as a team, which is amazing to me, and I love it.
Wow.
Yeah, the amount of teamwork that they put in is pretty remarkable, especially when you look into like how greedy modern day film industry is. You know, where it's just, hey, let's make a movie because we want to make as much money as possible. They were out there doing it just because they wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And it just goes to show, too, that George A. Romero is a hell of a leader because he just
Absolutely.
motivated all of these people to not only invest in his movie, but then do multiple jobs on set, all that shit.
Yeah.
It's impressive. Like, he must have really good pitching skills, you know, like, because like, this is a crazy movie, right? Like, this is something no one has ever done. So he's, like, sitting people down going, all right, like, think about people. They're dead. And now they're going to try to eat you. And, like, somehow everyone was like, yeah, I'm on board. I like that.
Yeah. I mean, another comment I want to have is just that, again, these people had no film industry experience, and they were able to make one of the best horror movies of all time. Like, let that sink in.
Yeah, and this isn't just us saying it. This is, like, critics that are well more renowned and have a lot more credibility than us. They say that.
Yes.
All right, let's get back to just kind of our trivia lineup here. So this is a quote from George A. Romero that he said that when they finished editing the film in Pittsburgh, where they filmed it, they put all the reels into the cans because you didn't just put a movie on a flash drive, you know, in 1968. You had to put it on reels.
Yeah.
And they drove it straight to New York City and went around to any theater asking if anyone would play it.
It's awesome.
And it eventually was obviously played in theaters, and it caught fire, right? Everyone in America wanted to see it. And the U.S. rating system hadn't been instituted until November of 1968. So this movie came out a month before that, and it had no rating. So kids of any age, you know, could just go in to the theater, pay, and you could watch this movie. And people were scared shitless.
Yeah.
I believe it, yeah. Seeing the first dead person eating a live person, that'll make me stay up at night.
Yeah, could you imagine being like a 5-year-old and you had no idea what you were getting into? Oh, I think I'll go to the movies today.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, just think of a lot of movies that were made in the 50s and 60s, a lot of corny stuff, you know? Mm-hmm. This is not.
Oh,
this is the total opposite.
Well, at the time, yeah, especially. It was a pretty hardcore movie for the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, to understand, like, it was definitely pretty hardcore because this is one of the first films that graphically depicted violent murders on screen. But when I thought about this as well, I was like, I'm not sure when Psycho came out, like, that's pretty violent for a murder on screen as well.
It came out
just, like,
same
more
time
like cannibalistic violence.
Yeah, the cannibalistic stuff, yeah.
Also, this is one of the first films to have an African American as the main character. Yeah, to which this year during this time was not common, which is ridiculous. It was not done on purpose to cast a black man as the lead protagonist. As a political statement, this actor was simply the most talented lead they could find in their area.
Yeah, I mean, that's just, you know, because a lot of people could watch this movie during the time frame and think that they're trying, like Bryan said, make a political statement. But I mean, these guys were just using their resources, the best resources they could find around them. And
Dwayne Jones just happened to be the best actor on the set. So they were like, hey, Dwayne, do you want to play the lead? And he said, yeah. And he probably understood, too, that maybe it would be perceived as negative by some people. But, yeah, they just didn't do it on purpose or anything. They just did it because he was the best.
Yeah, I mean, it's just... I mean, everyone, it's humans, man.
Yeah. I mean, I've read, too, George A. Romero is a pretty progressive guy. Like, he was described as being kind of like a hippie in a way.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. And, you know, off the hippie, the music, it was, the music used in this film was from a Capitol/EMI Records high-Q stock music library, so there was a bunch going on there. And once the copyright was just a public domain and cost the filmmakers only $1,500, which is pretty amazing. So I'm assuming nowadays you got to cough out maybe 6 figures to buy some music.
Yeah, I have no idea.
If it's public domain, it's probably pretty cheap. Like,
okay.
But public domain, to pay $1,500, I feel like is a lot if it's public domain.
Very true. But it wasn't like an original score made for film itself, because this was originally used in Teenagers from Outer Space in 1959.
That just makes me want to watch this movie, like not only just the title, but also to recognize the music, because I love the opening scene with the music is amazing.
I like the music too. I mean, Teenagers from Outer Space, though, that movie has to be so bad.
Yeah.
Just
It
horrible.
definitely has.
Let's talk about some titles they were considering before they finalized on Night of the Living Dead. So one of the first ones was Night of Anubis, which, I mean, sounds kind of cool. You know, Anubis is a pretty cool, like, god of the Egyptians, the god of embalming and mummifying.
He's like the god of the dead, I thought.
Yes, yeah. But the title was changed once George A. Romero learned that very few understood the reference, which, yeah, makes sense.
White people in 1968 didn't know who Anubis was.
And then another title was Night of the Flesh Eaters, which that title, it's pretty good. I would say it's pretty good for its time. Like that to me, that makes sense of a movie that would come out during this time frame. But Night of the Living Dead is just a way better title.
So much better. But that was the title that George A. Romero really was pushing for.
Yeah.
Night of the Flesh Eaters.
But let's talk about more of the origin of the zombies, okay? Because originally the beings attacking the characters were extraterrestrial in origin, so either aliens or humans possessed by an alien pathogen. Eventually, it was decided that the dead would rise and devour the living, presumably due to radiation that was carried by a NASA satellite returning from Venus. So let's talk about that for a second. What do you guys think? If this movie came out and it was aliens, what do you think about that?
Nowhere near as successful.
Flopped, yeah. Definitely would have flopped, I feel.
Part of the horror is that, like, a zombie is terrifying because it's someone you might know. It could be your neighbor, could be your daughter, your mom, whoever it could be. And now they're trying to eat you. And, like, no one had ever seen that shit before in a movie. And so I think that's why, like, I mean, we already know. We don't have to talk about this. Zombies are everything now. Like, Walking Dead, there's a bunch of shows.
Totally.
All started because of this. It created a phenomenon.
Well, I mean, and plus the 50s and 60s, there was such a freaking surplus of alien type movies being so this would have just been cliche and just another one to throw into the genre.
I feel like space was a hot topic in like 1968 because they were trying to go to the moon that year, I think.
69.
Yeah.
Space race.
Yeah.
So maybe it would have done really well then because people would have been just like afraid of aliens at that time because, you know, that was like the first ventures into space.
Yeah.
So maybe it could have worked. Maybe. Let's get back to zombies though. Forget about the aliens. The word zombie in this movie, Night of the Living Dead, is never used. Because the most common euphemism used to describe the living dead in the film is those things, and that's by Cooper mostly. And other characters in the movie refer to the creatures as ghouls and flesh eaters. However, the film identified many tropes about zombies, right, that we know and see in all kinds of movies since, and that's including zombies eating human flesh, and that zombies can only be killed by shooting them or removing the head.
Yes.
Which is such a nice touch to the zombie as well, because they do it so well in the film when Ben is shooting him, he puts like 6 rounds into his chest, and he's just like, what? He's not going down.
Yeah, they're just relentless.
Yeah.
That's what's great. And like just another great part of how John A. Russo, the screenwriter, just threw that little nice touch in there for the whole zombie. But it appears as the zombie who gets killed by Ben with a tire iron.
Yeah, so the screenwriter is also acting in the movie as a zombie, and he's just volunteering, oh yeah, hit me in the head with a tire iron. Go ahead.
That's awesome. Just everybody getting involved. He also allowed himself to be set on fire for real and nobody else wanted to do the stunt. Romero approved of his coworkers' zombie walk. I was probably hungover, Russo stated.
Wow.
So that's a decision that he probably would have made it if he was full-blown sober.
I mean, come on, being hungover, that sounds like the worst time to even make a decision like that.
Nah, man, it's the easiest
That's the
hangover
perfect time
cure.
to act as a zombie.
Best hangover cure. Set me on fire. Let's go. Really start my day. Get the blood flowing. Set me on fire.
So, what exactly is a zombie and how long have they been around? Well, by definition, a zombie is a dead body that is brought back to life.
Exactly, and history shows that the idea of zombies dates back to the 8th century, okay? And the word zombie is said to have come from Nzambi, which in Congo means spirit of a dead person. So it means that a zombie is a person who died and then was brought back to life without speech or free will with voodoo. Okay?
Voodoo.
Wow.
Voodoo is a religion based in West Africa and practiced throughout Haiti and the Caribbean, Brazil, the American South, and other places with African heritage. Okay, but other places in the world have had zombie history too, not just this voodoo stuff. So the ancient Greeks may have been the first civilization terrorized by a fear of the undead. Archaeologists have unearthed many ancient graves which contain skeletons pinned down by rocks and other heavy objects, assumedly to prevent the dead bodies from reanimating, getting up and coming back to hunt or kill whoever maybe put them in the ground. But let's get back to modern day voodoo, all right? So many people who follow the voodoo religion today believe zombies are myths, but some people believe zombies are individuals revived by an expert voodoo practitioner, okay?
See, these people go to school for this kind of stuff. There's people out there that can bring dead bodies back to life. The zombie apocalypse will be upon us in no time. You guys are all ready for that.
It's a major at most productive universities. You can major in voodoo. You can become an expert in this stuff.
I mean, some people...
I'm actually getting my minor and maybe go back for the PhD. I don't know yet, though.
Some people get their MD, some people get their VP, voodoo practitioner.
That's enough about the education and history lesson. Let's get back to the film.
But you want to find a school that's going to provide you with voodoo dolls, though, because those are really expensive.
Yeah,
not cheap voodoo dolls.
So if you've seen it or haven't seen it, this movie was made in black and white. But for the time, movies were coming out in color. So why did they do that? Because it was all money-based. And they were able to use, since there's so much blood in this film, the black and white allowed them to use Bosco chocolate syrup. And that was used to stimulate the thick red blood or black blood
delicious
within the film.
Chocolate.
Yeah, I know Psycho used chocolate too.
Well, yeah, it's amazing because you have no idea, and it just holds it right off.
Yeah.
Chocolate seems like it'd kind of be hard to get off, if you got chocolate all over you.
It's all sticky.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about something that's more appetizing with the special effects that they were doing, because when the zombies are eating the bodies in the burnt-out truck that that the two people die in, the people who were acting as zombies were actually eating roast ham covered in chocolate sauce. So that sounds great.
Roast ham and chocolate. Those are supposed to be the body parts that are being eaten.
Yummy. And then the filmmakers apparently joked that it was so nausea-inducing that it was almost a waste of time putting the makeup on the zombies, as they ended up looking pale and sick anyway.
Why would you agree to do that? Yeah, I'll eat chocolate and ham.
I mean, if you're going to be in a movie, why not?
Free meal.
You're getting your main course and your dessert at the same time. But anyways, there was 200 extras that were cast in the parts as the parts of townspeople and zombies.
Yeah,
That's a lot of people.
200 people eating chocolate and ham.
Wow.
It's a state fair.
I wonder how they did that. They went door to door, just like put up like little
ads. I think that's the success that makes a zombie film when you have the team of zombies.
You got to have the numbers, yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. They just brought random townspeople together to do this.
Very cool.
Another really cool special effect that they use, and this is actually like probably one of my favorites, is that the zombie hand that one of the characters, Tom, hacks up in the movie with a kitchen knife. The hand was made out of clay and filled with chocolate syrup. So this is when the hand's like coming in through the window trying to grab somebody, and they're trying to battle them and get them away from the property. And the guy just starts hacking at the hand, but the way the hand just completely gets ripped apart, it looks so real and awesome.
Which for 1968 is really, really hard to do. And I'm trying to envision the process here. So they made a fake hand out of clay.
Yeah.
I get that. People sculpt stuff all the time. There's a lot of good artists out there. But how do you get the chocolate syrup inside? I assume it's like the process of
inject
putting
it in there, maybe?
Jelly into a donut almost type thing, where you get like a syringe and then you just kind of squirt it in, just get all that jelly in there.
It's real innovative.
Or it could be like a mold. And set the mold and pour this chocolate
sauce that's right.
in.
Yeah, that's true.
Possibly.
Difficult process.
We don't know.
It's cool. But let's talk finances. George A. Romero saw very, very little profit from this film, when thanks to his lack of knowledge regarding distribution deals. Okay, remember, we said earlier that this movie made a ton of money, but the makers of it didn't make anything because the distributors walked away with practically all of the profits.
Oh god, it sucks.
Wow.
It's just robbery. But that just goes to show that when you're doing something, you really have to be on top of it. You got to know all the legal stuff, and if you don't know it, then you got to hire someone who does.
Right.
Because the main distributor was the Walter Reed organization, and one of their big publicity stunts during the release of this film was a $50,000 insurance policy against anyone dying from a heart attack while watching the film in theaters.
Wow, great job.
That's unreal.
So that's kind of a
I can
publicity
imagine
stunt they
somebody goes
did.
down. Yeah, right?
You know, people are like, wow, I got to go see this movie if people are having heart attacks.
All right. This film entered the public domain in the United States because the original theatrical distributor, the Walter Reed Organization, neglected to place a copyright interdiction on the prints. In 1968, United States copyright law required a proper notice for a work to maintain a copyright. So this was spawning new ideas about the even film industry and gaining even more laws. They copyrighted Night of the Flesh Eaters because that was the title that was supposed to be Costly Air by them.
Yeah, Walter Reed Organization just filed the copyright for the wrong title.
Yeah, dude.
Because George A. Romero was so split, I guess, when they were releasing the movie. He wanted it to be called Night of the Flesh Eaters. Walter Reed wanted it to be called Night of the Living Dead. But whoever worked for Walter Reed Organization wrote down Night of the Flesh Eaters on the copyright.
That sucks, man.
Yep. But they still made a hell of a lot of money distributing the movie, you know, over time. But I mean, when we're talking like nowadays, they could still be making money on this, you know, by having it on like Netflix, things like that. But they have no royalties. They got nothing because it's public domain. It's on YouTube for free.
Yeah, it's true. And another thing, after the release of the movie, I guess the filmmakers were accused of being satanically inspired by Christian fundamentalist groups for their portrayal of the undead feeding on flesh, and of the Cooper's zombie child attacking her mother. Which, I mean, you'll get this anywhere, just backlash for anything that you're trying to do that's somewhat controversial.
Yeah.
So
if you don't like it, don't watch it.
Yeah.
Well, you know, we saved the best trivia for last. George A. Romero, the director, really never did his own laundry during filming. He just bought new clothes instead.
So lazy.
That's so random.
I mean,
so random.
I guess when you got chocolate syrup all over your clothes, though, maybe they don't wash too well.
Yeah.
Those stains don't come out too easy.
All right, let's talk about the story. So we're not going to be discussing the script. It's just going to be a movie review. The script is kind of like a novel. A lot of description, a lot of chunks of text. So
written by a director, not a writer, right? In terms of like organization, it probably pisses you off so much. 'Cause you're just like, oh, this isn't the format.
It's been a while since I read it, but it took me a long time to read it. Let's talk about this opening scene, though, right? Because there's this long shot of a car driving down a dirt road, and the music is just like
Ominous,
pummeling your ears, and it's just this very barren countryside. Looks like it's in the fall because the trees are all dead, and they're this brother and sister, Barbara and Johnny, are driving to the cemetery to visit their father who passed away. And it's just a really spooky opening. You know,
graveyards are spooky, man. They really capitalized on that.
Yeah,
and as we know, the dead are coming back to life. So a graveyard isn't the best place to be.
No, because there happens to be a ghoul there.
Right.
Look, there's one of them now. End quote, Johnny.
Well, I'm gonna do a sidebar because I've always wanted to go over to Pittsburgh and like visit this stuff. Like it sounds still like, oh, it's just a graveyard, who cares? But like, it sounds cool to me. I'd love to go see it. Anyways, Johnny gets attacked, right? And he hits his head against a tombstone. It looks terrible. It looks absolutely awful.
Yeah.
So he's dead.
I mean, really bad.
Well, that's such a shitty way to go, honestly.
Yeah.
Just trip and fall and boom.
Yeah.
Ugh.
And Barbara gets chased. We're gonna speed by this really fast, but yeah, Barbara gets chased, and she eventually finds this farmhouse where the movie takes place, pretty much entirely after this opening graveyard scene. But that's when she meets other characters. At first, she's there by herself, and that's when Ben shows up at night because it seems like he was just driving around, like he didn't really know where he was going. He was looking for gas because at this farmhouse there's a gas pump, and they meet up together, and they think they're the only two that are around, but there are 5 people taking refuge in the cellar.
Hiding. Yeah.
They're cooped up in the basement.
Wow.
Coopers are cooped up in the basement. I had to. Sorry.
Unbelievable.
It's a 1-star joke right there. 1 star.
Yeah. So now you got, 7 people are at this house, 7 strangers. They don't know each other at all. Who knows where they came from? I believe Tom and his girlfriend, I think this is his uncle's house,
Yep.
I believe.
Yep, you got it.
Okay, so, and then everybody else is just like people maybe who live in the surrounding area, except for Barbara because they drove from the city, so like hours away. But I want to talk about their strategy of how they decide to defend themselves in this farmhouse. What did you guys think? Or let's just go through what they do, and then we can kind of analyze it based on what we know now from zombie attacks, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, based on their strategy, it's pretty much the typical, like what you see most people do if they're in a zombie film or a situation like that, where you want to board yourself up.
Yeah.
Lots of plywood, lots of nails.
Yes.
And the zombies were slow in this, so they didn't really have to.
Capitalize on that at all. Yeah. That was a question that always ran through my head. I'm like, you just can just walk by them, honestly.
Yeah, right. That's the goofy part. But I mean, you get like another example of like stuff that's come out later on, just because this has been really influential. Is Max Brooks' Zombie Survival Guide, right? Do you guys remember reading that book at all?
We had it as a kid. Yeah, I remember reading it.
Yeah. So, do you remember what his strategy? If you're going to defend yourself in a house, what his best strategy was? Do you remember?
Oh yeah, it was take out the stairs.
Yeah. So go upstairs, destroy the stairs, and hang out upstairs because then they can't get to you.
My only issue is the fridge. The fridge is usually downstairs.
Yes.
So I'm like, eh.
Yeah. I mean, that's if you decide you're going to hold up in the house, but.
Well, how does one take out the stairs?
That's a good question.
I don't. You just destroy it. You just axe it or something. I don't know.
Because I just thought, I'm like, oh, we could just burn it, but then the whole house would burn down.
Exactly. Maybe you just like barricade the stairs more than anything. You just kind of barricade them.
Yeah.
So then nothing can walk up. It's still that's kind of a terrifying decision to make. Like, okay, we're going to destroy the stairs.
Yes.
Yikes. What else does he say in this survival guide novel? Is there anything else?
From what I remember is he's like, fill up your bathtubs before the water gets shut off or something like that.
Yeah.
So you have
Smart.
a bunch of water.
Yeah. There was that. I mean, I don't know. There's a ton of stuff like clothing to wear, the kind of weapons you should seek out. You know, all this stuff. But I want to talk about the movie because they completely disregard the upstairs the entire movie, which is clearly the best place to go. But I think this movie is about people making wrong decisions and them deserving it.
Because they're
to what happens to them.
Because they're panicking.
Exactly. But there's this power struggle between Ben and Mr. Cooper, right? These are our main characters. And Ben wants to stay on the main floor, and Mr. Cooper believes that they should go in the cellar and hang out. So there's this power struggle of them fighting for what the group is going to do, but they ultimately decide that Ben will have the upstairs and Mr. Cooper is in charge of the cellar, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And they just hate each other the whole movie. They cannot work together, which is not what you want to do. You want to do the complete opposite. But let's talk about the zombies and their characteristics, guys. What describe them for us?
Yeah, we already said they're super slow, right, Brian? That's what you're about to say. Slow.
Very slow. But they did have some sort of like athleticism, I guess, when it comes to picking up weapons and destroying and throwing bricks.
Yeah, because they were pretty adamant about breaking the windows, pushing the boards down that they were boarding up. So they did have some. They were slow, but they had physical strength to them for sure.
Yeah, they did have some like cognitive ability for sure that you don't really see in like typical zombie films now. Yeah, they're mainly just kind of like vessels that walk around and just seek food. That's really it. But in this one, like we said, they pick up tools and they're able to use them.
And a bunch of them showed up at the farmhouse too. And like I was thinking about this as I was watching. Like, why are they all coming here? Is it just because the noise? Like, just because they can maybe smell the people? I don't know. Like, what do you guys think it is?
Go ahead, Bryan.
I mean, maybe it could be like a relation. I don't like Dawn of the Dead. It's like revealed when they say like they're at the mall and they ask the same question, like, because this was their favorite place to go. So maybe that house had a lot of parties.
Yeah, or
had a lot of house parties. Yeah,
a lot of house parties. And, well, they did have the gas pump, so maybe that's where everyone in the town got their gas. So maybe that's why they went there. They're like, I must fill up my trunk.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, they never allude to the reason. It's just kind of that's just where they're going. I mean, you could like speculate. Okay, maybe it's like a herd mentality. Like as another zombie sees a zombie going somewhere, and they feel like they need to be together. Or the noise.
True. I'm thinking the noise from boarding up the house.
Or the noise that we know now, like they're attracted to noise and like lights and all this type of stuff. All this like sensory type stuff. But yeah, they never say anything, which I mean adds to the eeriness, I guess, but sure. Yeah, we kind of already talked about the special effects a little bit, but I guess if you guys have any other comments about it, because like we said, this movie's pretty violent for its time. It's very gory. I mean, there are parts where like the zombies are eating guts and basically like barbecued humans from an explosion.
Except it's not barbecue; it's chocolate.
Ham and chocolate.
Yeah. Right.
The special effects are great for the time. I mean, I just want to bring up how about the naked zombie?
There was a naked zombie. Yes.
How about that?
That's the naked zombie.
I don't know. I mean, is that a first?
Yeah, I would. Yeah,
Nudity
probably.
in movies,
Right?
again, like this movie had no rating too. So not only were you being scared, but if you were like 6, you're like, "Whoa, there's some naked people going on here." Whoa.
I doubt it. There are probably like naked people in other movies, but I'd say like a combination of things. This one had it all.
I mean, if you're watching HBO, there's going to be naked people everywhere.
Yeah.
Game of Thrones, stuff like that. Well, just naked people everywhere.
I mean, definitely the first naked zombie. That's for sure. Oh, okay. Who do you guys think gets the worst death out of everybody?
Probably Mr. Cooper, man. He goes out pretty hard. Or the mom, I'm sorry, Mrs. Cooper.
Care to elaborate, Bryan? Elaborate for us.
She gets it pretty hard. So, as in the beginning of the film, the daughter has been bitten, and they're just trying to heal her. Oh, she's just sick. We don't know anything.
Yes.
But she turns, and the mother was like playing "I Love My Daughter" and trying to help her out, and the daughter picks up like a small shovel, like a gardening shovel. It's shaped like a pie cutter, honestly, and just repeatedly stabs her in the chest.
Yeah, that scene is eerie. It reminds me of Psycho, kind of, because you see you see like the weapon moving back and forth or whatever.
I love that shot of her shadow, like just stabbing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it sounds gruesome, but it's really great.
Yeah, for the time, it's done real well.
Yeah, and that was the scene too that made all those like Christian fundamentalist groups think they were satanical. Because it was, they call it parricide, right? Did you kill your parents or something like that?
I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. She was a zombie.
Oh yeah, and she eats her dad's arm.
Ooh,
remember that?
Oh yeah.
When the mom comes down the stairs, like the dad's Mr. Cooper's like freaking arm is like half gone.
Ugh. I think the worst death is the two, like the young couple that get blown up in the car.
Yeah.
That one's pretty awful. But it's just like, come on. All they had to do was get out of the car because the car was on fire.
Yeah.
But let me drop some knowledge for you here. That all car explosions are just a movie thing that never happens in real life. Like if you set a car on fire, it'll just flame out. It'll just catch on fire. It won't explode.
Knowledge bomb.
Yeah. So all they had to do was get out of the car, but they didn't, and they blew up, and it was gruesome.
You guys said that probably my top two, but I'm going to throw in a third, which is I'm going to go with Barbara because so like in the beginning, right? I'm going back to the beginning really quickly. So Barbara and Johnny, right? We're introduced, and typically in a
brother
movie,
sister.
Yeah, typically the first few people that you see in the movie are the main characters, right? But everyone dies in this movie. Everybody. It doesn't even matter like who you are. Everyone dies. But so in the beginning, Johnny gets killed, right? And then once the house is being overrun by zombies, Barbara is like acting actually because most of the movie she doesn't do anything. So when she tries to save Mrs. Cooper from zombies breaking into the house, she sees her brother Johnny now as a zombie in the horde, and he's the one who grabs her and pulls her into like this swarm of zombies, and they just devour her.
Yeah, gross.
Eaten alive.
So that would be terrible, especially by someone who you love, right? And then now that's a great segue because I mentioned that at the end everybody dies, right? And even now you don't really see movies ending like this, but definitely for this time this was not common at all whatsoever.
Everybody dying, negative thing, but here's a positive. When it debuted in theaters, everyone gave it a standing ovation at the end.
Okay.
Wow.
So the audience was cool. They were okay with the ending of everyone dying because maybe it was something they'd never seen before.
Yeah. Yeah, because I guess the last death that we should mention is Ben, because he's the only one who survives
the
night of when the zombies are attacking, because he takes refuge in the cellar, how Mr. Cooper suggested they should.
Yep.
So the next day, he walks out of the basement, and there's like a team of like hunters and just people who are going around the area and killing off zombies they come across. And Ben is cautiously walking around in the living room, and the team outside hears something, and they think Ben is a zombie, so they shoot him, and he dies, which, I mean, is a pretty terrible ending, considering he should have lived. But I got two things I want to mention. So everyone dies at the end, and when they were trying to sell this movie, distributors wanted them to change the ending so that there was a survivor or a hero.
Yeah, I understand.
But
Makes sense. Yeah.
But Romero and his team, and there is a quote of him saying something like what I'm about to say, is that they were really adamant that the ending that they had was never going to change because Ben had made the wrong decision about not going into the basement, not about listening to Mr. Cooper, and so that he deserved to die because of that.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it was the ending he wanted, and it's the ending they got. It was the right ending.
Right.
Not everything always has to be happy.
No. But that's just typical. Most movies you see that's the formula. So I appreciate that this movie went another route.
Yeah, really. I mean, most movies from this time were typically ending with the guy winning whatever situation,
getting
he
the
was
girl,
in, and getting the girl. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, like typical Rocky Balboa freeze frame.
Exactly. Freeze frame. Yeah.
At the end, the characters are just jumping in the air, celebrating. Yeah. That's how most movies from this time ended.
Yeah. So I guess the last question is: does this film hold up today, guys? What do you think?
Well, I mean, to see how well the zombies have evolved, probably not, because like Walking Dead is just like, I don't know, a lot more spookier, and like the zombies, the makeup and all that looks 100 times better because of the time, understand. But if like any new horror film or zombie film, like idea that's brought to the table that's new, I think would be amazing to see in any day and age.
Yeah, I mean, I like this movie. I appreciate it because I know what it is and all the work they put in. Like we've researched this stuff, and we just appreciate George A. Romero in general because we like his movies. Yeah. But I think like in terms of holding up today, like I don't think I could show this movie to my friends. I don't think they would enjoy it just because it's old, right? The acting is pretty amateur. It's in black and white. These special effects were really limited, especially but they were from 1968. So I don't know where I'm going with this. It doesn't really hold up today because we've been brainwashed with CGI in the modern movie experience, right? But if you're a film critic, if you're someone who really appreciates this stuff, you'll love it. But I think the general people are they've had enough of it.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm going to take an opposite stance. I think it holds up. I mean, just as far as I feel like this is something you would see today. I mean, not necessarily. I'm not talking necessarily how it is presented as a whole. I'm just talking about story wise, especially the ending. Yeah, man. I think it holds up. I don't really got any evidence to support that. I think it does.
Yeah, because you like it.
I'm not biased at all. No, I'm not.
Well, I know in terms of star rating, I give this movie. It's a 5-star horror movie. It created a whole genre of horror. Without it, everything else is nothing.
Yeah.
There's no Walking Dead. There's none of that shit. Even though The Walking Dead needs to end, by the way. They got to cancel that show. It's been going on for too damn long.
Read the comic books.
Even the comic book's over. So
end the show. Over, yeah.
End the show. Jeez.
They got to be getting there.
It's a soap opera.
One more season.
I'm pretty sure George A. Romero called The Walking Dead a soap opera. I'm not kidding.
He was right.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Burn.
What's your star rating, Brian?
Oh, dude, honestly, I'd probably give it a 5 out of 5 because, like I said at the beginning, it gave me my obsession for zombies, honestly.
Your healthy obsession.
My healthy obsession.
Yeah.
The idea, that is.
Well, I mean, I guess we're all going to throw around a 5-star.
First time.
Yeah, we're all throwing out, 5-star, that's not something you should throw out lightly. But, I mean, the reason I'm giving it a 5-star is just because of the time of when this was made. And I mean, the most important thing for me is just that these people had no experience at all whatsoever. They had no bar they were holding themselves to. They had no idea what they were doing.
They just figured
for the most part. They just wanted to make something, and just that simple goal of wanting to make something just amps me up to want to do the same thing. And I just, when I watch this movie, I'm just amazed now that we know. I never knew that these people didn't know what they were doing. I never knew that.
I mean, I think we're giving them less credit. They knew what they were doing. They turned $6,000 into $114,000.
Well, they knew what they were doing, but they never made a movie. Is what I'm just saying. They did the commercial stuff. They did these industrial films, whatever those are. But as far as making a movie, they never made a feature film in their lives. And that's what really pumps me up about their story.
Oh, yeah.
No matter what platform you're using to listen to us, I just want it to be known that we're available on iTunes, Spreaker, and YouTube. So if you like our content, please be sure to follow all of our channels so you can stay in the loop with new episodes. Also, feel free to give us a rating and leave us comments, or send us an email at screenplayjunkie.show@gmail.com. We'd love to hear your feedback.
Also, if you have any recommendations of screenplays we should read, movies we should watch, or really anything, let us know on any of our platforms. We're always looking for other things to check out. On the next episode, and for the conclusion of the Fright Fest mini-series, we'll be taking a look at the 1995 horror film that reinvented the slasher formula, Scream. Thank you for listening. We hope you can join us next time.